that 13-yard pass to Des Bryant to basically seal the deal with a minute and a second remaining. I mean, I think a lot of the credit should go to that massive front line that they have. Like that front line was
the offensive line, it's absolutely impeccable to their team.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right.
Like you mentioned earlier, Tony Romo could have lollygagged and had all the time in the world. He was protected when it counted the most.
He did. He literally had a year and a half to throw the football. And you bring up a great point. I mean, you have to credit his offensive line, and you have to, I mean, I don't know if you can tear apart the fact that the defensive line, of the Giants didn't get to him on that particular play, but I think that it's inexcusable to be held that long. It's inexcusable.
I'm going to be honest with you. I think every game the Giants' pass rush is absolutely horrible.
Exactly.
I think Jason Pierre-Paul is one of the most overrated defensive linemen in the league. He had that sensational year during the Super Bowl, but since then, I mean, the guy has been overhyped. And everyone else, Matthias Kiwanuka, God knows what happened to this guy. There's so many different...
Never hear his name.
Yeah,
Never.
But Kiwanuka had so many expectations when the Giants drafted him. So the problem here with this team is that I just think that they need pass rushers, and this game was sort of similar to the Seahawks game. I thought the Giants played the same exact way against the Seahawks in the first half. Now, granted, they only lost this game by 3. They got blown out by Seattle, but it was the same type of situation. They played really good the first half, and the second half they dropped off mightily. Like, the Giants played horrible in the second half this game, too. I mean, a red zone pick, there's absolutely no need for that. Look at the St. Louis Rams. I don't know if you guys saw the highlights or if you watched the game. Sean Hill threw a pick in the red zone the final minute of the game. Yeah. You can't turn over the ball in the red zone. Good teams, they know how to score in the red zone. Yeah. That's no reason why my Miami Dolphins are 6-5. They should be 9-2. They just one of the worst. Same thing with the 49ers. They're both one of the worst offensive red zone teams percentage-wise in scoring.
Yeah, and it's a problem that, yet again, Rashad Jennings and Andre Williams, I mean, between them, they had a decent amount of rushing, but 52 yards from one and 35 from the other. I mean, that's just it's not good enough. It's not good enough. The Giants, see, that is what this team is. They're not good enough. They're not good enough to beat the Eagles. They're not good enough to beat the Cowboys. And there's just facets of this team that separate them from contenders in the league. And we name them all. Number 1, it's the pass rush. Number 2, it's the inability to put down a blow on a team, to actually throw that knockout punch. They let a team back into the game or to overcome them, just like they did to the Cowboys. And another problem is the rushing attack. And I know that you always complain about they try and go to that too much. They should let Eli throw. But there have been plenty of games the Giants didn't have any rushing attack at all. Yeah. They tried to, but they just didn't. It wasn't good enough. Mm-hmm. Like you mentioned one time, they don't have... they don't have a LaShawn McCoy. They don't have
Giants don't have anything. Murray. The only thing they have looking forward to them is Odell Beckham has been consistent rookie. I mean, everyone didn't know if Odell Beckham was obviously a first-round pick, but he was injured at the beginning of the regular season. Now he's starting to be consistently great. And that's the only good thing looking forward towards this Giant team. They have absolutely no run game. Rashad Jennings is an all-right running back. I mean, they brought him in from Jacksonville, but he's not a franchise running back. You don't have anything. Like, defensively, they need to make a lot. They need to go through a whole refranchisement, basically. They need to rebuild, start from the bottom to top. It's actually a good thing that they're 3-8, because I wouldn't want them to be 8-3, and it's not even like they would do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, substantial modifications needs to be made to this ball club. Yeah. At the end of the day, like you said before, it comes down to a matter of being able to finish out games. Mm-hmm. Like Eli Manning was red hot in the beginning, second half, don't know what happened.
I mean, the difference between them and the Jets, I think the Jets actually have a better team than the New York Giants. I think the Jets, depth chart-wise, I think the Jets have a great front seven. The Giants don't have any front seven. I mean, the Jets secondary is pitiful. The Giants secondary is average. It's average, nothing special, nothing horrible. But even they have better running backs. Chris Ivory is a great running back. Even Chris Johnson he had the potential in the past to be one of the best. I mean, he's sort of fallen off, but he's still a good runner. I mean, even wide receivers, they got Percy Harvin and Decker. I mean, we only have Odell Beckham. I think Victor Cruz is very, very overhyped. I think he's a good slot receiver. He's not a number 1 receiver. I think Odell Beckham, starting next year, will take Victor Cruz's plays. You're going to see Odell Beckham playing that number 1 receiver.
Oh, absolutely. He's better than Victor Cruz.
He absolutely has better hands. He's stronger, quicker.
He's better than Victor Cruz, and he doesn't have the resume yet, but he will. He will, hopefully, with the rebuilding of this team, he will. I can draw a correlation between this game and the Denver Broncos-Miami Dolphins game.
That's a good point.
And, it was similar in a lot of ways. But once again, the end result was the Dolphins having the opportunity to win this game. And they had that throughout the game, but they weren't able to put it away. And to me, it's a bigger... This is debatable because Tony Romo is, as you said, a good closing quarterback, and despite his chokes in the past, he is statistically one of the best quarterbacks. Not one of the best, but he will be considered
regular season quarterbacks. You're absolutely right.
Yeah,
one of the best. Wrong.
He's one of the best regular season, and I think that with Peyton Manning, I still think it's a little bit of a different story because Peyton Manning, I think, is at a higher ranking than Tony Romo. But it's still a similar instance where you have two good quarterbacks. You're in the opposition. You had the game won, and you weren't able to put it away.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you know what? That's actually a really good point. I think Peyton Manning's a better version of Tony Romo because even if you look at Peyton Manning, he doesn't have a lot of postseason success. His record in the postseason is under 500. He's got the one Super Bowl ring, so there's credit there. But if you think about it, that's what separates him from Ben Roethlisberger, Eli in the playoffs, Tom Brady's the best in the playoffs. These guys, I just think Peyton Manning and Tony Romo, Tony Romo is honestly not the same quarterback, but he's similar. Yeah. You're absolutely right.
But look at this. Look at this game. The Broncos didn't have their first lead till 5 minutes were left in the whole game. 5:01 was left, and they took their first lead. Mm. Now, T.J. Ward's 37-yard interception, Ryan Tannehill can't throw that interception. He can't throw that in. The Broncos already have, they already have a lead at that point, and to throw that interception late in the game, it's just another Tannehill and Eli Manning. Eli didn't throw an interception, but I thought they were very similar in these two games.
I think the pick thrown by Tannehill, I think he threw that ball way too hard inside. That was only like a 7-yard reception. He beamed him. And Jarvis Landry hit his own receiver's hand, right, and that bounced into T.J. Ward's hands. I just think that this is a reason why the Dolphins are similar to the Giants. Obviously, they're a better football club, but similar to the Giants is in which that the Dolphins do not know how to close out games.
Yeah.
They were beating Green Bay a couple weeks ago. They were beating Detroit. They were beating Denver. This game's a little different, although they were up 11. But in the final 2 minutes of the game, they gave up 2 touchdowns to Aaron Rodgers and Matthew Stafford, and they lost the game. This is a reason why Dolphins are 6-5 and just outside the playoff hunt instead of being 9-2.
Yeah.
The Dolphins could be dominant, just they don't know how to finish games because of lack of experience. There's many reasons.
And you talked about Landry, the ability to catch that ball. To me, if you're and I understand this completely because obviously, you have to also, as the quarterback, make the right throws.
I don't think it was a right throw either.
Okay, but to me, if it hits the wide receiver's hands or the tight end's hands or any hands of an NFL player, the ball should be caught.
You're absolutely right.
Okay, because they're at that level for a reason.
Yeah.
And if you look at the Giants game, it's becoming disgraceful that this team has so many drop passes.
Oh, yeah.
And they're easy passes to catch. Preston Parker.
Parker, yep.
He's horrible.
Turned into 48 yards for church.
Yeah, Larry Donnell. These guys can't catch the ball. They can't catch the football.
Holding Beckham.
And Beckham makes up for it because he makes catches that shouldn't be caught.
He's a rookie.
Yeah, he makes catches that really should not be caught. Honestly,
yeah.
And they can't make catches that should be caught. It's really disgraceful. They've really highlighted the inability to catch the football. The Giants this year, really, they have.
Going back, striving away from the Giant game, but the Dolphin-Bronco game, the Dolphins have a very good defense. They're top 10 defensively in the league. But they couldn't do nothing defensively. This was a shootout. The final score was 39-36. And the Dolphins in the past have held teams to low scoring and won games 20-17. Not in a shootout like this. They were due for a turnover, as you said. They gave up 200 yards on the run to C.J. Anderson, who was a third string going into the season, and they were up 11 in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. And you talked about their defense, and their their defense is, as you said, you're looking at a team that you can't necessarily fault them for giving up more points than they normally would to the Broncos.
Yeah.
I mean, the Broncos do run a real good offense. I mean, with Peyton Manning at the helm, and I mean, Demaryius Thomas had a big touchdown. You got wide receivers, Julius Thomas. You got guys on this team who could really make things happen.
The play that when the Broncos took the lead at, 34-28? No, it was 36-28 or something like that. They took the lead. The Dolphins, I did not like their formation they played at the end of the game. They rushed 3 guys. I never like it when these NFL teams rush 3 guys, because when you do that, especially against a quarterback like Peyton Manning, you give him time, and time, any quarterback will kill you. He's a professional quarterback for a reason. Grant you, Peyton Manning's one of the best, but if you only rush 3, you're dropping back in coverage. The zone is only meant to throw off the quarterback. It's not meant to permeate, a stop. So that quarterback's going to at least have 10 seconds to throw the ball, and that's what the Dolphins did, and they gave up the touchdown. Now, what the Rams did, and you guys remember last week the Rams pulled off an upset, only allowing the Broncos to score 7 points.
Right.
The Rams continuously came at Peyton Manning. They blitzed him. They were rushing 5, sometimes 6 guys, 3 out of the 4 downs. Every possession. I mean, Peyton Manning was blown at. If you saw his post-game interview, he's like, give them credit. Their defense was stout. Like, they came at me. They forced me to throw the ball off as quickly as I can. And I think that the Dolphins, they should have done that. I think any team, when you play Peyton Manning, because the guy has no footwork, he can't move around. He's not elusive. You need to bring pressure, bring the house on Peyton Manning, because what he'll do is he'll just try and float up a little pass deep, which could happen. I mean, you might bring it down, but you got to bring pressure on Peyton Manning.
Well, the thing about, I agree, definitely bringing pressure on the quarterback is essential, but to me, I feel like Peyton Manning is good at moving the chains with short passes. So I think that, the fact that, listen, they brought the pressure on, they didn't bring the pressure on him yesterday, and the Rams did, and it worked. But I think that Peyton is good at throwing, like, how Alex Smith operates.
Mm-hmm.
He defeated the Jets a couple of weeks back. Mainly, he took their front pass rush out of it by releasing the ball quickly. I think Peyton Manning's also good at that.
Well, I mean, these blitzing defenses, you have to take that risk. It depends on what type of quarterback you're playing. Like, if you're playing someone like Russell Wilson, you can't blitz Russell Wilson, because what's going to happen is your blitz is coming from both sides. It's going to draw him up the middle. He's going to split the defense, and he's going to run. You can never blitz. You have like a man zone spy, where the middle linebacker is literally hawkeyeing him, following him in his run patterns, and you play coverage deep. But you don't blitz someone like Peyton Manning. You have to blitz him. You can't try and fight him in the zone or play man-on-man, because he's too good for that.
Yeah, and the Seahawks did a real good job of that in the Super Bowl last year.
Exactly.
I was just about to say that.
You saw how they gave him no time to orchestrate any plays?
Yeah.
That's why I did not like the Dolphins' play calling defensively. It looked kind of like the Kansas City Chiefs game a couple weeks ago when we had the show. They were doing the same exact thing on defense. I didn't like it.
Well, the Dolphins wound up with the loss. What are your aspirations for this team making the postseason?
It's a good question. Well, they are going to lose in New England. That's a given, because the Dolphins beat New England 33-20 in week 1. There's no way. I think they're going to get blown out. In order for Miami to lose this game, they're definitely going to lose that game, so they're going to have to finish 4-0. I mean, you got the Jets.
And they played
the Dolphins struggled with the Jets, though.
They played the Pats twice or so far, Dolphins, or was it once?
Once. They beat them week 1.
They beat them.
They did, but that was when the Patriots, if you remember the Patriots in the beginning of the season, they were very struggling. They didn't know who they were. Yeah, there were rumors that Tom Brady might get traded and or benched. I mean, they couldn't run the ball. The defense was nagging. I mean, they had a lot of problems.
Without LeGarrette Blount, who's back.
Now they have LeGarrette Blount. I mean, this is a totally different team. Ever since they got blown out by Kansas City, they basically were awoken. It was a sleeping giant that was basically awakened. So I just think that the Patriots are way too good for the Dolphins to handle right now. And the biggest game, honestly, they play Baltimore in 2 weeks from now, and that's honestly the game, because Baltimore is right there too. Yeah. Miami needs to finish 4-1 and make the playoffs.
Moving on, another big game that definitely, I think we predicted to be a little different than the outcome. I don't remember your prediction, but the Seattle Seahawks taking down the Arizona Cardinals in a game that the Cardinals had basically looked flawless up until this point, between the way their defense had been going, and finding ways to win games. Obviously, they don't have the best offense in the NFL, but they were really always finding ways to win games. And you said, I believe you predicted that there was going to be a time when Stanton was not going to be as good as he was showing he could be. And this was the game. The Seahawks, listen, you want to tear them apart for not having as good of a year. Hey, they're the Super Bowl champs. And it came down to one team having more experience in a big game setting than another. And the Seahawks were able to compose themselves and pull out the win.
I mean, honestly, I had the Seahawks to win this game in our pool.
So did I.
I think Sean had them too. I don't know who you had.
I think I might have the Cardinals.
You might have the Cardinals?
Cardinals.
Okay, but no, this is a big win because this basically changed Seattle's identity back. They're back from last year.
It awakened the beast.
They did. They only gave up 204 total yards. The Seattle defense this year has been average. It has not been superb. It's been average. It's actually been in the middle, like between 13 and 17 total ranking. Like, it has not been good, especially against the pass. They've been horrible against the pass. They've been great against the run. And back last year, I mean, you had Legion of Boom. Those four guys in the secondary would shut down opposing quarterbacks, and that's what they did against Drew Stanton. I know Drew Stanton, as Anthony just said, I mean, there'd be a time in which he'll show that he's not a great quarterback, and you're absolutely right. He showed it today. He only threw for
just over 100 yards. I believe it was
149 and one interception, which is funny because last week he played another good defense in Detroit and he threw for a career high 306 yards. And this is the inconsistency that we were talking about.
Right, yeah. And now when you look at this team, you realize that the Cardinals, I just mentioned their good defense, they sacked Russell Wilson 7 times.
Yeah, 7 times.
And they freaking, they excuse my language. I don't know why I said I didn't mean to say that word there, but I did say frickin'. I'll make that clear.
Listener's discretion is advised.
I didn't say anything else. But what they did was they ran at Wilson with an assortment of. They threw just about every blitz in the book at him, and it was working. They actually had Wilson at their mercy at different points in the game. Here's the difference: Russell Wilson's a clutch quarterback. I mean, there's no question about it. And when the Seahawks needed to score, he made it happen. And that was, to me, that is why their good defensive play against him didn't prevail in the end, because he found a way to beat it, not all the time, but when he needed to, he beat it.
Yeah, he didn't even have a pass intercepted either.
Well, Russell Wilson's very good with that. He does not turn over the ball at all. I mean, the only thing about with them sacking him 7 times, I didn't watch the full game, but when you...
Except against the Giants, he threw to turn the ball over a few times.
He threw against the Giants, but not normally. I mean, the only thing when you sack a quarterback that many times like that, I feel like a defense could become, because they did it, they had 7 sacks, they could become too lenient at attacking the quarterback, because if you also look at the stats, he had 10 rushes for 73 yards. That's a lot for an opposing quarterback. That's 7.3 a carry. So the problem is I think they started to get too into it, and Russell Wilson started to pick up on this, and he was able to escape it for big gaps. The only thing that the problem with Arizona going forward, they only scored 3 points. This is why I said, remember last show we talked about how good could this team really be in the playoffs, and I said they don't have enough firepower to score. Yes, they might hold the team. 19 points is not a lot. You should be able to beat a team 20-19 without no problem.
Yeah.
But I just don't think they have enough firepower. If they're going to play someone like Green Bay, or even if New Orleans was to slip in, or somebody of that nature that can score and play defense, Arizona could be glooming. And if they don't, Arizona's great at forcing turnovers, and they didn't have 1 turnover. Patrick Peterson, Tyrod Matthew, you have great guys who can be playmakers, and they didn't turn over the ball. But they did keep Marshawn Lynch 15 rushes for 39 yards, and I that's great.
Well, yeah, it's great.
You would think you win the game if you keep their best offensive player, because honestly, this team, Russell Wilson closes the game outs for them, but Marshawn Lynch puts on the yardage. He keeps them in the game. They're a run-first team. They can't throw the ball.
Yeah, because when Lynch takes off, Wilson does a good job of game managing. And he lets beast mode take over.
I mean, if you were looking at the scorecard, the stats, whatever you want to call it, and you see 7 sacks, Marshawn Lynch 15 for 39 yards, you would think, wow, Cardinals might have took this one away.
Right.
And that's actually good for Seattle moving forward if they can find ways to win without Marshawn being a beast.
And then you were just mentioning the Cardinals, you're doubting their firepower moving forward. I mean, it's right in the books right here. If you look at the rushing on their end, I mean, Ellington he didn't do anything either. And Ellington is not necessarily Marshawn Lynch either.
No, but he's an up-and-coming running back. It's a good point.
He's an up-and-coming, running back. But I agree with you in the fact that, without Carson Palmer, Drew Stan has done a phenomenal job. He really has. But you got to wonder. You can't help but wonder when this team, when it comes down to it, postseason time, and they're facing the best of the best, you got to wonder if they're going to have enough to get it done.
I'm going to be honest with you. They're obviously going to get the bye, but they're going to lose in the divisional round. Right after the wild card round, they're done. They're going to lose to the 6th seed, or whoever wins between the 6th and 3rd seed. They're done. Because you know who's going to get in, right? It's going to be either San Fran or Seattle or Detroit. I mean, you have a lot of good teams that could get in.
Yeah. I mean, if it's San Fran, I don't know if they. I mean, unless they wake up in the come playoff.
But if you think about it, both teams play the same style of play. They want their defense on the field. So now, if you go to the offensive spectrum of all three of these teams, Seattle, I mean, they could put up points somewhat. I mean, they're not an explosive powerhouse team, but they're better than the Cardinals. I mean, they'll give you at least 17 or 20. 3 points. I mean, there's only so much your defense could do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Here on Sports Just Cuz, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to go to commercial. We'll be right back to discuss the latest sports of today.
WICR presents This Moment in History.
This neighborhood war has sent men, food. From the NBC newsroom in New York, President Roosevelt said in a